Welcome to Draft Nook. Love and business are subjects covered here. Before choosing a business or side work subject, thinking is needed. There's a basic question to pose, the answer to which should help determine the route one could take toward building a business as a single individual or even as a team, if perhaps a group is involved in the thing itself. It's important to slow down and grasp reality as it stands, not just head quickly out with strong desire or even strong liking toward a particular kind of business. The question, how much money can be committed to the project, is of supreme importance before beginning. In this list of 5 different ways of business, we can progress from the free or low-cost methods to the ones with a bit of cost. That way, what is noticed then are possible ways to do things for cheap. In the modern world, money can be a challenge to come by. So now, let's review some of these ways. Some of the online businesses available today include number 1, sell others' products. The money that's needed for this is nothing. Offer to sell the products of other people you know. This is a great selling idea when having no funds. It can get your feet wet before heading off into the vast waters of online selling. And it's great here because this doesn't need money to begin. Market through free methods. Stuff can be sold by having a yard sale or by joining a neighborhood market sale event. If something is popular enough, make a do-it-yourself flyer. Ask if the local city council, school, or church hall will let this be posted on the bulletin board. And while online, there are many free local marketplaces such as Craigslist or OfferUp. So just ask others around you if they no longer need stuff, then offer to sell these things and split the revenue returned. Think potential here, possibly turn a $100 profit through a bit of work. Then take that to invest in products that you can build up over time through buying and selling. Just buy low and sell high. Find things on the cheap and buy them up. Grow the revenue. It's nice to know you're not in some race. Either grow fast or take your time. It's all up to you as the individual. One way not to lose the revenue returned is to jot down what has been earned by selling. Then come back to that amount later that you've gained and begin from there. For example, you could just put these earnings in some savings account or banking account. This can help if you live a very busy life. And then you know how much money you have to turn and buy new stuff with. And when it comes back, you can buy more stuff and keep that amount growing over time in its own dedicated fund. So now let's go on to number 2 of the 5. And the second concept here is to develop websites. Money needed $0 to $100. So $100 could be for marketing, for example, or business cards or flyers. Now, even someone who doesn't have much money can succeed with this. There are several cool options to learn HTML for free online. Learn the language of the web and develop a website for a needy individual or even a small company. And it's one service that DraftNook offers. In fact, if you do need a website built or sections to be developed, just contact on the DraftNook website through the forum to inquire about this. Some money on business cards could be used initially for marketing your skill or begin for free by the word of mouth effort, reaching out to others you may know, or businesses you know may be in need. When beginning, either go with a free hosting company or buy a domain with hosting. Place some examples of your work there so you can point to visual samples of the kind of work that you do. You can practice, in essence, and show what you're capable of from small to great types of skill. Some effort is required beforehand. Learning HTML, also known as hypertext markup language, and CSS, also known as cascading style sheets, forms a nice framework from which to develop, and these are fairly easy to begin learning. Free resources can even be found online. When developing further skills, JavaScript could be learned. This is probably the third area to go study: JS or JavaScript, even some programming language, such as this one, a similar one, for example. And by developing abilities, work opportunities become more abundant. In fact, online there are several businesses, small ones or individuals, that look for the skills of web development and want to work individually with someone rather than having a do-it-yourself kit like WordPress, for example. Try both tactics of developing skill and seeking work, either by word of mouth or marketing. By doing both of these, the portfolio could grow for an easier time of getting work later, and more revenue could result from one's skill level. So it may take a while to get somewhere, but if you concentrate in building up both of those areas of skill development and seeking work at the same time, it gives you a good chance. And if you can track that by week or monthly, you can see the kind of effort you put in and how you're willing to develop or come back to it if things are slow for a time. We now turn to the third concept: sell clothing products. Money needed $0 to $200. If you want to have your own dedicated online store, it may cost some money. And maybe with the cheap ads advertising. A Shopify store is an excellent option for a clothing seller who wants to begin their own thing instead of relying on an already existing online store, such as Amazon or Etsy. This initial one is for the do-it-yourself clothing store, though it costs some money. If you're serious in developing or designing apparel, it is recommended. The reason is you're in control. A company can't decide just to let you go off their platform, and there are no restrictions on the kinds of apparel that can be made. For the most part, there are no restrictions, and it is a do-it-yourself kind of thing. Further, third-party fees can be reduced or eliminated when you do it your own way. You're in control of costs much. Shopify is easy to figure out and is a great option for the beginner. They offer a large article support system also to help out. So there are plenty of advantages to going this route. To get visits, one may need to either buy cheap ads or have some social influence to bring others over. These are at least two known easy ways to develop success here. Third-party options also exist. These can still cost since fees exist for each sale sometimes. If you have an artistic ability, buying and selling used vintage clothing is also an option, which can be sold on your own site or on a third-party platform, such as Amazon or Etsy again. What an interesting time to be alive. In times past, big clothing retailers or outlets were the places to go. On top of that, there existed only the brick and mortar store options. The modern days, though, are vastly different. Many more options exist to begin selling clothing online, even without having to purchase clothing before actually making the sales. Add to that the possibility of having an online presence, and the chances for success increase for the budding entrepreneur. One existing marketplace to sell clothing is called Etsy. This is doable since many individuals commonly go there for artistic apparel or different types of looking things. Options include handmade clothing, probably quite very difficult and slow, or licensing design work for clothing prints, or selling vintage clothing from years past, and probably other ways too exist. Research would be needed beforehand to determine how you want to sell clothing. It could be quite a process just to set things up, especially if the method considered is outside normal bounds. One of the most common ones, though, nowadays is to design your own prints or designs and put them on blanks through the drop shipping method, and have that drop shipping store provider mail the shirts out to the customer. That's one of the most common ways to do things because you don't hold inventory. It really is incredible the amount of opportunity available today. This is vastly different than, say, the 1980s, for example. Things really have shifted from the old brick and mortar way. Fourth method, make an online website. Money needed $0 to $200. Own the business. That's the big advantage here. Think of things like this. It's comparable to owning a house. Just pay the property taxes and everything's okay. For the website, just pay the domain fee and hold on to the property. This might range from $0 to $50 per year. Another positive, just like a house, a web domain's value may appreciate over time. If you build it, they will come. A domain may be grown to new heights and attract buyers. This is relative to the effort involved in making something of the website property. Costs involve both the domain and web hosting, so these two things. If the domain is the house, the hosting is like the land. The domain needs somewhere to be hosted or placed online. Hosting might range from $0 to $100 per year to get going. That's why $200 here tops should easily cover all these yearly expenses. Huge variance. The topics of what to do with a site, how to initiate marketing, or what other tasks may be involved are too complex and varied to be covered here entirely. Many of these things depend on the individual, what business one wants, what topics one wants to cover, whether a site is for personal or business reasons, and many other things, of course. You could visit the domain and hosting recommendation provided before beginning. It is provided nearby or in description area. And finally, idea number 5 is to start a business with $500. So the more expensive one is to sell physical products. Money needed $0 to $500. The difference between number 1 is you're not actively selling what you have on hand or people that you know asking them, but go ahead and buy products and sell them to get a quicker start in some circumstances. You can sell games to earn income if you want, or books, or just sell a variety of things. There are 2 big businesses today that allow the individual seller to sell through their marketplace. Maybe you've heard of both of them, as they are Amazon and eBay. Both allow third-party selling to occur, as this helps to grow their big markets and influence. So the advantages work both ways. Try and play by the rules for either one if you end up selling through either. If things seem strict, try and look at it like smart business. After all, they have much to watch over for the result of having stable growth and not heavy losses through seller non-compliance, for example. This kind of thing can be begun with $0 just by finding things not needed anymore. Think of this like having an online yard sale. Alternatively, buy things with some initial capital and resell the products for a high margin, the amount received from the sale of the product, that is. Subtract the buy cost from the margin received to determine the overall profit. For example, let's say you buy a product for $10. Then you sell it for $30. Then you have to subtract $5 for selling and platform fees, so the margin left is $25 from the $30 sale. Then you subtract the buy cost from that $25 margin, so 25 minus 10, and so the profit is then $15 that is left. So that profit would be for tax and for the individual. The reason both of these markets are preferred when selling physical products online has to do with their visits and traffic. The amount of visitors each of these big sites receives makes selling far easier. Presume you try and begin your own online store from scratch. You'll likely discover the big problem is the great lack of human visits. Without visitors, sales don't occur. If you read through the rules to begin on either of these 2 selling behemoths, you can discover which one is better for your circumstances. So because of the great amount of buyers, you can choose either of these as one of the best online business ideas for beginners. You could visit the business mindset post back on the Draftnook website regarding the topic of staying positive for either or all, really, of these methods listed. It is a post regarding business mindset again. Having some inspiration for having the appropriate mindset can go a long way for beginning and continuing the journey. Press like, channel subscribe, or visit the description to get something. Thanks for viewing.